Adolf Hitler's story. Welcome to this English Listening Stories, where we explore history through storytelling. Today, we dive into the life of one of history's most infamous figures, Adolf Hitler. His journey is filled with ambition, struggle, and devastating consequences. Let's begin. Chapter 1: A Boy with Big Dreams. On April 20, 1889, in a small town called Braunau am Inn in Austria, a baby boy was born to Alois and Clara Hitler. They named him Adolf. At the time, no one could have imagined that this little boy would one day change the world, in a way that brought so much destruction and pain. As a child, Adolf was not particularly special. He loved to play outside, draw pictures, and dream about a future full of success. But life in his home was not always easy. His father, Alois, was a strict and demanding man. He worked as a government official and expected his son to follow in his footsteps. However, young Adolf had a very different dream. He wanted to become an artist. "I want to paint. I want to be an artist," he often told his mother, Clara. She was a kind and loving woman who supported his dreams. But she could not change the mind of her husband. Alois believed that art was not a real job, and he insisted that Adolf focus on his studies and prepare for a stable career in government. Tensions in the household grew. Adolf and his father argued frequently. Whenever his father scolded him, Adolf would remain silent, hiding his feelings deep inside. But despite the conflicts at home, he still held on to his dream of becoming an artist. Tragedy struck when Adolf was 13 years old. His father passed away suddenly. Some people thought this would give Adolf more freedom, but instead, it left a deep wound in his heart. Without his father's strict rules, Adolf lost his motivation to study. He started skipping school, and his grades suffered. His teachers often said, "Adolf is intelligent, but he is lazy." Even though his academic performance declined, his passion for art remained strong. He spent hours sketching buildings, landscapes, and faces. But he had no clear plan for his future. Chapter 2: Dreams Shattered in Vienna. After finishing school, Adolf packed his bags and moved to Vienna, the capital of Austria. He was full of hope and excitement. "Vienna is the city of art. I will become a famous painter here," he thought. With great anticipation, he applied to the Academy of Fine Arts, one of the most prestigious art schools in the city. He waited anxiously for the results, but when they arrived, his heart sank. He had been rejected. "The quality of your work is not sufficient," the letter from the Academy stated. Adolf was devastated. He refused to give up and applied again the following year. But once again, he was rejected. This second rejection was even more painful. He had placed all his hopes on becoming a great artist, but now it seemed impossible. With no school and no job, life in Vienna became a struggle. He lived in tiny, dirty rooms and sometimes had no place to sleep. He painted postcards and sold them to tourists for a small amount of money. He often found himself wondering, why is life so unfair? During this time, another tragedy struck. His mother, Clara, passed away. She had been his greatest supporter, and now he was truly alone. The pain of losing her made him even more bitter. As he wandered the streets of Vienna, he started looking for someone to blame for his failures. This was a turning point in his life. He began reading books and listening to speeches that blamed different groups of people for society's problems. He absorbed extreme ideas and started believing that Austria's difficulties were caused by certain communities. The anger and frustration inside him grew stronger. Despite his hardships, he continued to dream of greatness. But instead of dreaming of being an artist, he started dreaming of power. He believed that one day, he would rise above the struggles and prove himself to the world. Chapter 3: Finding Purpose in War. In 1914, a major event changed the course of history. World War I began. For Adolf, this was an opportunity to find meaning in his life. "I will join the German army. This is my chance to be part of something bigger," he thought. He quickly enlisted and became a soldier. For the first time, he felt a sense of belonging. The army gave him discipline, structure, and a cause to fight for. He served bravely, carrying messages across dangerous battlefields. His courage earned him 2 medals, and he took great pride in them. But in 1918, Germany lost the war. For Adolf, this was a crushing blow. He had believed in Germany's victory, and now he saw his country in chaos. Many people were poor and hungry. The war had left Germany weak, and its enemies demanded that it pay a huge amount of money in reparations. Adolf was furious. "Our leaders betrayed us," he shouted. He refused to believe that Germany had lost because of its military strength. Instead, he looked for others to blame. After the war, he returned to Germany with no clear path forward. But soon, he found a new purpose of politics. He realized that words had power, and he began speaking to people who were as frustrated as he was. He blamed Germany's troubles on certain groups and promised that he could bring the country back to greatness. His speeches were passionate and filled with emotion. People started listening. Slowly, he gained followers who believed in his vision of a strong and powerful Germany. This was the beginning of his political journey, a journey that would eventually lead to one of the darkest chapters in human history. Chapter 4: The Rise of a Leader. After World War I, Germany was in trouble. The country had lost the war, and people were struggling. Many were poor and hungry. The economy was weak, and people were looking for a strong leader to fix their problems. Adolf Hitler saw an opportunity. He joined a small political group called the German Workers' Party. He quickly became a popular speaker. His speeches were full of passion and anger. He told people that Germany's problems were not their fault. He blamed other groups and promised to make Germany strong again. Soon, Hitler changed the party's name to the National Socialist German Workers' Party, also called the Nazi Party. He designed their symbol, a red flag with a black swastika. "This will be the most powerful symbol in the world," he declared. People started following him. His speeches gave them hope, even though his ideas were dangerous. He believed Germany should only be for Germans, and he blamed certain groups for the country's problems. In 1923, Hitler tried to take control of the German government by force. This event was called the Beer Hall Putsch. However, it failed, and Hitler was arrested. He was sent to prison for 9 months. Chapter 5: Writing, Mein Kampf. While in prison, Hitler wrote a book called Mein Kampf, which means My Struggle. In this book, he shared his ideas about Germany's future. He wrote that Germany needed to be strong again, and that certain people were the enemy. Many Germans read the book and started to believe in his ideas. After leaving prison, Hitler worked even harder. The Nazi Party grew stronger. He gave more speeches and gathered more followers. The Great Depression of 1929 made things even worse in Germany. People lost jobs and had no money. They wanted a leader who could fix everything. Hitler promised he could. In 1933, Hitler became the Chancellor of Germany, the country's top leader. This was the start of a new chapter in German history. At first, people were happy. He created jobs, built roads, and made the military stronger. But behind the success, Hitler had dark plans. Chapter 6: Controlling Germany. After becoming Chancellor, Hitler made many changes. He controlled newspapers, radios, and schools. People must only believe in Adolf Hitler, he said. If someone did not agree with him, they were punished. He created a strong army called the SS, and a youth group called the Hitler Youth. Young boys trained to fight and were taught Nazi ideas. Everywhere in Germany, people saw the Nazi flag. It became a symbol of Hitler's power. His speeches became even more powerful. "Germany is the greatest country in the world," he shouted. The crowds cheered and believed his words. In 1939, Hitler made his boldest move. He ordered the German army to invade Poland. This act started World War II. His dream was to take over Europe and make Germany the most powerful country in the world. At first, his army won many battles. But as the war continued, things started to go wrong. Chapter 7: The Expansion of War. At the beginning of World War II, Hitler's army was strong. Germany quickly conquered Poland, and soon after, Hitler's forces invaded Denmark, Norway, Belgium, and France. His strategy of fast, powerful attacks was called Blitzkrieg, or Lightning War. His army was well-trained and used advanced weapons, making it seem unstoppable. By 1941, Hitler controlled most of Europe. However, he wanted more. He turned his attention to the Soviet Union and launched a massive invasion, known as Operation Barbarossa. At first, German forces made great progress, capturing large territories. But as winter arrived, things became difficult. The Soviet army fought back fiercely, and the extreme cold made it hard for German soldiers to survive. At the same time, Hitler declared war on the United States after Japan attacked Pearl Harbor in December 1941. This was a big mistake. Now, Germany had to fight against powerful enemies on multiple fronts: the Soviet Union in the east, and the United States and Britain in the west. Chapter 8: The Holocaust and Hitler's Cruelty. While Hitler fought to expand his empire, he carried out one of the darkest crimes in history: the Holocaust. He believed certain groups, especially Jewish people, were responsible for Germany's problems. He ordered the construction of concentration camps where millions of innocent people were imprisoned and killed. People were forced into hard labor, and many died from hunger, disease, and execution. Families were separated, and entire communities were destroyed. This was one of the most tragic and horrifying events in human history. Today, the world remembers the Holocaust as a warning against hatred and extreme ideology. Chapter 9: The Fall of the Third Reich. By 1943, Germany's situation was getting worse. The Soviet Union had regained strength and pushed the German army back. In the West, the Allied forces, including the United States and Britain, launched attacks on German-occupied territories. In June 1944, the Allies launched the famous D-Day invasion in Normandy, France. This marked the beginning of the end for Nazi Germany. German forces were now losing battles on both the eastern and western fronts. By early 1945, Soviet troops had reached Berlin, Germany's capital. The city was under heavy attack. Hitler, now hiding in an underground bunker, refused to surrender. He still believed in victory, even when it was clear the war was lost. Chapter 10: The End of Hitler. As Soviet troops entered Berlin in April 1945, Hitler realized there was no escape. He refused to be captured. On April 30, 1945, he and his longtime partner, Eva Braun, took their own lives inside the bunker. A few days later, Germany surrendered to the Allied forces. The war in Europe officially ended on May 8, 1945. Hitler's dream of making Germany a great empire had led to destruction, suffering, and the deaths of millions. Chapter 11 Lessons from History. The story of Adolf Hitler is a reminder of the dangers of hatred, unchecked power, and extreme ideology. His rise to power was fueled by anger, false promises, and discrimination. His rule led to immense suffering and loss. History teaches us the importance of unity, kindness, and democracy. By understanding the past, we can make better choices for the future. The world is a better place when people respect each other and work together for peace. This concludes the life story of Adolf Hitler. Thank you for listening, and remember to learn from history so that we can build a better future.
Thank you for listening. Please subscribe this channel and enjoy learning English.